hour. So if you gentlemen are okay, we'll go ahead and get started.
Yes, go.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. This live stream Q&A is going to be focused on the Paraswap and Chainlink integration, focused up on all the cool things that Paraswap is building, exploring their platform, exploring some interesting things that they're working on perhaps in the future as well. So I want to take this time to thank both the Paraswap, Chainlink, and blockchain communities for joining us. Munir, of course, who is the founder of Paraswap, who joining us today and taking time out of his busy schedule. Johan for joining us today as well and taking time out of his schedule. Johan and I did, we're just speaking just a little while ago, it seems, on video as well. So thanks to him for joining us. And really, this is just about allowing the community to learn more about kind of all the cool things that are going on sort of behind the scenes with Paraswap and Chainlink. So to start things off, would you mind maybe starting with you, Munir, maybe introducing yourself, a little bit of your background, and just a little bit of info about Paraswap?
Yeah. So I have a tech background. I've been a developer most of the time of my career since 10 plus years. I've been also involved in many startups in transportation typically, and started getting some interest in 2013 and came back in 2017 with the bull run and what's happening in the field. And also being CTO, product manager, mixed background, and started some few ventures along the way as well.
Also, perfect. Thank you for that. Would you mind maybe just a brief explanation of what Paraswap is in your own words?
Yes, so Paraswap is a liquidity aggregator on the Ethereum blockchain. We allow traders and dApps to exchange ERC20 tokens and ETH, whether those are normal digital assets like ERC20s or lending protocols. For instance, a user may switch from an Aave to a compound where the yield is better. And we allow that because we have a aggregation engine that is connected to 15 plus exchanges and can allow our API to split the orders across all those exchanges so that the rate is better than the market rate. So that's the end of the game, is trying to beat the market rates and get either users a better acquisition price or traders get them a better trade arbitrage opportunities.
Okay, very cool. So basically, it's essentially a system that allows you really to see what the price is on tokens across kind of multiple markets, and then allows you to essentially work to get the best price.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And our typical users are traders or even pure retail users who buy a token that they like or that they see a good buying opportunity in, but also many arbitrage traders who are typically swapping stablecoins, like recently since Curve have launched, or dApps, for instance, a wallets who are used to propose prices from centralized exchanges / some centralized reserves. Now they are starting to use decentralized exchanges, and they are switching slowly to decentralized aggregators or DEX aggregators because of this price liquidity that you provide. It's hard for a DEX to have given the fragmentation of the liquidity.
Awesome, very cool. Thank you for that. And how would you say, what makes Paraswap unique? What do you do, or what are you focused on that's maybe a little bit different than other liquidity aggregators out there?
Yeah, so most of our other liquidity aggregators are mostly focused on their UI. So they are maximizing on the UI, trying to build many components onto their UI, while us, we try to maximize on our API because the end goal that we see is on the infrastructure side, by empowering other dApps, other algo traders, bots, and so on, instead of just the UI. Currently, the UI is what works the best. And that's a bit typical in DeFi. Most of the project, they start with an infrastructure, they launch a UI to prove themselves and to prove the tech and how it works. And then they switch slowly into a platform based. And we saw that, for instance, with Kyber, Uniswap, and other products in decentralized exchanges world. And that's the play we're looking to make. That's why, for instance, we have a backend that is more optimized, that tries to push the prices as fast as possible. We have so many integration toolings, and we'll be building on that on 2020.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I guess then getting into, you talked a little bit about infrastructures, or infrastructure. How do you utilize the Chainlink decentralized Oracle network? Why did that kind of make sense for you to pursue that integration?
So there are many angles. We started now by the simplest use case, which is displaying the price on the UI, for the reason to help users make a better decision. Because although most of the users who come into Paraswap are DeFi heavy users who know every component, every protocol, and they know exactly what they're doing, but some people who are still noob and they don't know exactly how things work, they can make some mistakes, and you saw that some people who get hit by high slippage. So for this users, to help them make better decisions, we display the price for them. And we were in centralized APIs before, and we choose the chosen Chainlink for the performance and reliability. So that's, and also for the API, some of our integrators wants to provide this UX or this feature in the UX in their app. So the USD price is also served. And some wallets were very happy for that because they were struggling as well to find the reliable data USD prices, and it's given to them right off the bat, like on the API, and they are very happy for that as well. And now we're doing USD, we may do euros and Swiss franc and others, depending on the location, like the user, the category of users that the partners are addressing. So that's like the first case is, what is the USD price of the assets I'm trying to exchange? On the future, we have some ideas. For instance, we're looking into some more structured financial products. In this case, we will need to denominate some positions in USD, or maybe, for instance, just a simple case, I'm doing a limit order. Maybe I'm looking for a cross between an ETH to DAI, but maybe I'm looking for an event on the USD price. For instance, I'm saying I want to receive some signals when the price of DAI is equal to that amount of USD. Or for instance, and I'm buying an option using Paraswap. Maybe I'm gonna denominate that in USD. There are many ideas. We're still like brainstorming right now that needs to have this fiat correspondence. Needs this fiat correspondence.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that. I thought it was very interesting how you talked about how when you kind of build this sort of infrastructure, it's kind of been referred to as, kind of money Lego type system in DeFi, is that you implement something, but then there's also other users that get the benefits of, say, the price feed without even necessarily having to work on the integration themselves. They can simply connect to you and get the benefit of that.
Exactly, yes.
Perfect. So Johan, kind of throwing it to you, why is it interesting for, Chainlink, in this case, to basically work with someone like Paraswap to deliver decentralized oracles to them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in our case, I think it's mostly the same answer most of the time for most integrations, right? It's really getting usage for our network, because the way the Chainlink network works, first, the reason we can want to provide this network is to help DeFi grow and DeFi prosper, right? Because we do see a huge potential for this ecosystem. So any integration which uses Chainlink oracles kind of confirms all the work which has been put into it, because it confirms that the oracles, which are Chainlink powered reference contracts, are extremely interesting for the users of DeFi and for the applications building on DeFi. And on our side, really the way Chainlink works is you have node operators, you have users. The more users you get, the more node operators are incentivized to provide data. So it's kind of a loop. And the more you grow the base of users, the more you grow the base of node operators. And you can have this loop which grows. And that's how you get to a network which is sustainable and which is built for the years to come, to kind of provide help to DeFi now, maybe insurance later, and maybe also like basically every use case which will come up in the crypto ecosystem and which will need Chainlink. So we're starting with DeFi, and I'm extremely excited to see DeFi prosper so much. even more with the current conditions in the world, which really show the value of such an ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, anything that uses Chainlink is basically, first, we help the project getting set up and kind of growing by using reliable technology. And second, it helps spread and grow the ecosystem. So it's a huge win for both parties and integration.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So
Monier is actually also from Paris. So it's the first French integrator. So it's the first time we work with French. That's yeah. So that's my answer.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Johan. And I know Monier, kind of throwing that back to you. How was it working with Johan now that he has to sit here and get this direct feedback? But how was the integration process? How was it kind of working with the team?
It was very smooth and very easy for us to integrate. But actually, we got in touch with Johan. He connected us with the tech team in Telegram. And they showed us the contract, the functions to call. And I think we did it in like less than 2 hours with the test and everything. And it was a bit late. It was, I think, a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not fan of pushing into production before going to sleep. So it was in production on the next day. Lead time from getting to documentation, knowing how it works, to production was very fast. If we shorten the night, it's like 2-3 hours maximum. And also about the process that follows our relationship and communication, very smooth. Each time we have a question, we get the answer very quickly, and also given the time zone, and yeah, it's great. But I mean, we have Johan close to us, but the developers sometimes to get the answer. Yes, it was very, very happy and very professionalized, and we learned as well on the process that things that we can maybe get inspired from on the future work that you can do with partners. Was really cool.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. What is kind of getting back to sort of Paraswap and what you're building? Would you mind sharing? You talked a little bit about really focusing on kind of the back end and the speed of your product. Can you tell me maybe a little bit about what your short-term focus is? Maybe what people can kind of expect to see out of you in the next couple months, and then maybe some other things you might like to add a little bit longer down the road.
Yeah. So liquidity is still our focus. We still haven't finished the integrations we were looking to make. We had to make some changes into the smart contract. So we're going to deploy a new version of the smart contract that is under audit right now. It should be live in like 10 days to 2 weeks. It will improve the liquidity by just making some tricks on the exchanges. For instance, today, if you want to exchange some assets, they are illiquid. You can't have a price. For instance, if you're going from a CDAI to a ETH, do it from Aave to a compound to a different token, you will not get a price on Paraswap. Right now, you will not get it on Uniswap neither. Or you get like 99% slippage, which is not feasible. So now this contract is going to automate those transactions. It's going to go to the contract of Aave, convert the ADAI to DAI, then use Paraswap, the main engine, to do DAI to ETH at the best possible price. Then from ETH to CETH using the compound contract. So it's like a what we call it, multi-path or multi-step transaction. And what's cool as well, because we are like focused on this infrastructure side, we are giving traders more tooling and more control over those paths. For instance, traders, what we noticed that they are doing, they are building software that looks into each protocol and trying to find some arbitrage opportunities. What they do, they will go to Uniswap and Aave and Compound and so on, and say, I'm gonna swap ETH for DAI, then to BAT, then to USDC, then come back to ETH, and hopefully coming back with more ETH. That's what makes the transaction interesting. And that's that path routing, or what we call it, the routing. Traders will have the control over this. So using our API, they can trace their routes, because that's where the opportunity is, and can do better trades, which is also a big push to liquidity. So that's the short term, like we're speaking about few weeks to maybe like 1 month and a half to 2 months, by adding new integrations like Balancer, 0x, and so on. But also we looking to maximize our own liquidity. We have something called Paraswap Pool, which is you can see it as a private DEX. We have market makers that provide us with a price feed or price API and the settlement using 0x. And now we're looking to onboard more market makers, people either coming from the financial world or centralized exchanges. The goal is to be as competitive as a centralized exchange, as a Binance, as a Coinbase, as an OKX, and so on. And I think there is so much liquidity right now on decentralized exchanges. We can integrate them all, but we will still be limited by the amount of flood of liquidity that is coming. That's why we're looking to work on ours in order to have a complementary liquidity. So that's the liquidity subject that will be ongoing on during the whole year. And also using, for instance, Bitcoin, either through atomic swaps or through protocols like TBTC. The idea is to be able to swap from an ERC20 to Bitcoin, like physical Bitcoin at the end, and vice versa. Go doing, for instance, I have Bitcoin and I want to buy Link, for instance. And today, how it works, you should go to an atomic swap platform or centralized exchange, God forbid, and you go from Bitcoin, but only to a wrap Bitcoin, or go to ETH, which is not what users need. And sometimes, and also doing this from Bitcoin, you already have the finality of Bitcoin that is 10 minutes at least for then you another transaction for Ethereum, which is not great for the UX. So the idea is to have all of that happens in a transparent way for the users. I go from Bitcoin to Link, or go from Link to Bitcoin in one transaction, and I'm done. So those are and we'll be looking also on other chains like Zcash, like Monero, like other. We'll see which one makes sense for the users. But the main idea is doing like proper cross-chain swaps. And the third focus for the year is limit orders. So limit orders, there are many ways of doing them. There is the 0x way of implementing a 0x relayer, which is great. We love 0x, but we would like to do like liquid limit orders by using our engine. But this is a bit complex because we can just build a matching engine on our end, on our server backend, like what IDEX or Ether Delta used to do. But this is a bit risky for the end user and too centralized for the end users. It looks a little bit like centralized exchange. So the idea is to build some kind of a network where many users, many participants on the network can run a software that will match the orders and will be rewarded by fees, and will be slashed by misbehaving and so on. So this is something we're looking forward to do in 2020.
Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting. So almost like a peer-to-peer kind of decentralized network of, they could be spread out against thousands of people that they could be matching that. Yeah, that sounds very, very interesting. And I love the aspect that you're saying, some of this technology is out here, but it's just too centralized. And so how can we make it easy and decentralized, which I think is really maybe one of the biggest challenges. Is we want it to be decentralized, but we also want it to be ultimately easy and painless for the end user.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. I think dApps should not sacrifice on decentralization, because they will be implicitly sacrificing on security and at least on liability on their end. But it's hard. It's hard to have ease of use and decentralization. But I think we're in late 2019, 2020. I think we saw a lot of improvement in that sense, a good balance between both. Yeah, so I think we're going in the right direction.
Perfect. That being said, what do you see is there any one particular infrastructure challenge, be it maybe it's cross-chain or something like that? What's kind of that next big thing that you think we need to solve to maybe take the next step in terms of DeFi?
I would say cross-chain is definitely important because it was one of the feedback we received when we launched the first version. I showed it to some friends who are in crypto, and they weren't familiar with what I was doing, and they saw what the products. and they were like, I thought you were doing crypto, where is Bitcoin? And that's what the average people are thinking when you say you're working on crypto. So I think the next move in DeFi should be onboarding Bitcoin, and we see that a lot with many products, and all of them with some good level of innovation, like liquidity, like Jelly, or also TBTC, RAN, and so on. So I think this is key, but it's those challenges of latency. So users are already in Coinbase, in Binance, and so on. They are used to push a button and get their trade done, even though it's custodial. But I mean, users are often willing to sacrifice this decentralization, like average users, not like DeFi people, to sacrifice decentralization when it's clear for them. Like so many people are still confused about the key stored in Coinbase versus stored on wallets. Not everyone really gets the real idea. And I think at least having a performance or like scalable chains so that we can mimic or have the same user experience that we find in the Coinbase in a decentralized application, at least be similar, that will encourage users to come, because they won't have this hustle or this stress of having to wait for a few blocks to mine and so on. I think in security, we're doing way better, like for protecting users, what Argent and Monolith, for instance, are doing on getting this good UX, but also a good safety for the users while not being custodial, which is huge. It's the things we haven't seen before. It was either you have to write down your keys on a paper and never forget this paper, or keep it on a centralized exchange. Now users can have this decentralization and non-custodialship while having always a way to receive back, like to collect back their funds if they lost their keys or their phone and so on, which is amazing. Yeah, among many others.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. I think, yeah, I think there's some huge things, and I remember back a long time ago as well. It's, you know, if anything ever happens to me, making sure, you know, my wife knows where to find my private keys, and it's always just kind of been a big mess, you know, or people understanding if they ever needed to access, like how to even do that. So it's very cool to see some of these wallets and some of this other infrastructure come out that I think almost anyone can kind of understand how it starts to work together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of moving on and looping, we'll loop Johan kind of back into this, but outside of blockchain, Munir, for you specifically, is there any other space, be it technology or anything like that, that really interests you right now? I know you're a busy guy, you probably don't have a lot of free time, but if you did, what is another space that interests you?
Well, for the last 2 years, I've been focused only on crypto, and I was doing some consulting work like the first year, like in 2 years, and I haven't deep dive into other fields. But today I was watching this space race that's the Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and are doing this product, are working on, and I think that's something that fascinates me. So maybe it will be my next field of interest after crypto, when I will have more bandwidth in the future.
Absolutely, very cool. Thank you for sharing, Johan. What about yourself? I know I'm well aware of your schedule and the lack of sleep and everything else that's involved. But outside of that, if you had free time, what are some other things that interest you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, actually. I've been in crypto for a very long time. I feel extremely disconnected, you know, whenever I talk to someone who is in a more normal space, I would say. I mean, I do think there are many great innovations coming up as far as energy. The way energy is produced, for instance. I've seen some kind of new, that might sound weird, but like some startups in the Valley, right, in SF, are working on some new prototypes for, how do we say, kind of atomic energy, right? And basically a new way which makes it much less wasteful and much more powerful. So I think there is a huge, I have a huge interest in energy and the way we produce it in the future, because obviously the way we are doing it now isn't that sustainable. And as we grow in population, we need something which will be extremely powerful and will generate as much as little waste as possible. So I think all this type of stuff like crypto, better ways to produce energy, maybe electric cars, all of this fits into some kind of bigger vision for a huge society, which will be extremely develop more efficient. I mean, crypto is at first something which is more efficient, right? Like it's doing things in a more efficient way. Like you want to do a transfer, you don't call your bank, wait for 2 weeks before they call you back. Oh, we can do this transfer, wait for 2 weeks, and maybe the money will arrive, right? Like crypto is at first an efficient way to exchange and to do transactions between people, like between each other. And I think it's the same stuff for, I mean, yeah, the stuff which interests me is basically all of this, like how can we improve, innovate, and make things more efficient. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that insight. I've never been able to ask you that question before. What I found I think is so interesting in general is crises tend to spur innovation across the world. 2008, obviously we have Bitcoin, and you could argue cryptocurrency and all this cool stuff because of 2008. We're now undergoing even a larger global crisis, I guess you could say. So I'm very interested to see what new innovations, how are we going to change the way we do things? Where I'm at, people don't wear masks traditionally, even when they're sick. It's not something that's done. So it's just something as simple as that. But I'm interested to see how people change the way they act moving forward based upon these crises. And like you said, energy, I think finance is a huge one. Munir, obviously where we've got to find different systems because some of the current systems we use are inefficient and do not allow a lot of participants globally to participate. So that's what really interests me. That's why I love blockchain, is because I think it's one of the few fields where it could ultimately benefit everybody. And maybe we're not quite there yet for everybody, but I think very soon in the next few years, we will be able to create something that's kind of there for everybody to take advantage of some of these cool new financial products, I think, that are being developed by people like yourself.
Hope
awesome.
so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Perfect. Well, Munir, before we leave, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or anything else?
Well, yeah. Look, I'm I'm happy for what's What I think one thing we haven't mentioned is that before we used centralized APIs instead of Chainlink. And what's something non-intuitive for many people is that using a price feed on chain for us was way more performance and more faster than using APIs. So that's something I wanted to make sure we talk about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That you say that. I think people tend to think centralized always means faster or more efficient, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyways, for this case, it was like we had something like 5x improvements in the price feed, in the USD price fetching.
Awesome. Well, geez. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Johan, I hope that's good news, and hopefully we can even continue to improve and build on that. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come and speak with us. Thank you, Johan, as well, for taking time to come and speak with us. As I mentioned before, we'll do some slide editing here just to remove the first couple minutes and kind of provide everybody a clean recording. We should have that in a few hours, and I will share that with everybody in the community. I'll also put all the links as well to all the cool things that Paraswap is doing, their website, Twitter, all that good stuff. Munir, if people have any questions about kind of what you're building, what's the best way for them to kind of reach out and contact you and your team?
So the easiest way to our Telegram, so t.me telegrams at Paraswap, or they can reach out directly by email to munir@paraswap.io.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I'll put the Chainlink stuff in there for you as well. I just want to say thank you once again for taking your time. I know a lot of people on the Paraswap team help kind of put this together and get this arranged. So want to give a special shout out to them as well. Looking to do more of these in the future. So hopefully, Munir, 6 months from now, we'll be able to hop on another one of these, talk about all the great things that you've built, talk about the cool things that kind of Chainlink's built, and be able to take people kind of on this journey of improving this underlying very important technology.
Sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, have a great day. Enjoy your evening in Paris, and look forward to chatting soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye, Rory.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.